And a very happy Tuesday to you at 12:08 in the West. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wags in Culver City.
John, this morning, California Attorney General Rob Bonta filed his first lawsuit against the Trump administration in reaction to Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship. And when Bonta was asked about joining with other attorneys generals in this lawsuit, he replied, as only Rob Bonta can.
This moment calls all of us into action and into service. And it means that we need to stand up together and support one another. I've always believed that we're stronger when we're working together, when it's us and we instead of I and me.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
And we have our first, if you've noticed this, cliche rhyme.
We're working together when it's us and we instead of I and me.
Maybe he could be mayor of Los Angeles.
Every type of leadership is about meeting the moment and rising to the occasion. And this is what's required. And so we're stepping up and getting it done.
Now, he's another one of these figures like Sheng Tao, where this audience is well aware of him. But he's about ready to thrust himself on the national stage. Because if he's going to be the one that takes Trump to court over everything that Trump does, he's going to end up getting booked on the cable news channels. Trump is going to, at some point, return fire. And Rob Bonta is going to go from being a character on this program to being a national figure.
Well, and with all the scrutiny that's going on right now against former Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao and her connections to the Dong family, who have big connections to Rob Bonta, a giant national spotlight on him is not necessarily the best thing for him right now.
Something tells me, and this is just pure speculation, so file it away as that. Maybe even reckless speculation. But I just have a funny feeling in me bones that that guy is going to go to prison.
We're focused on the work. We are sleeves rolled up, heads down, arms extended in partnership, arms locked together to collaborate, to deliver.
And don't think about that clip in the context of prison.
If you look at Dong's social media, it's filled with pictures of him with Rob Bonta. And they're not just at political events or ribbon-cutting ceremonies. They're at Golden State Warriors games. They're on airplanes. These are people who wine and dine together who are not just political associates, but close friends.
Well, and the question Bonta's got to be wondering about is who's going to make a deal with the feds first? Sheng, the boyfriend, or the Dongs?
And the minute that they do, they're going to start spilling the beans on everyone.
There's no way they were only doing this with Sheng Tao. This family has been very powerful in Northern California for a very long time and have a lot of connections, and Rob Bonta has specifically introduced legislation to benefit that family.
And if you think about it, what they were doing up there was so grotesque that the Biden Justice Department decided to raid homes and make charges.
That was Biden's FBI.
Now it's Trump, and it's going to be Pam Bondi running the Department of Justice. And my guess is that California excess is going to be something that's on their radar. And there's nothing more excessive in the state of California than corruption in Oakland. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they put their foot on the gas pedal with that investigation. And let me tell you, every time you're going to hit that piñata, candy's going to come out. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Coming up later on in the program, we're going to speak with a state representative from the state of Hawaii. Why is it that we're speaking to a state representative from the state of Hawaii? Well, she is the representative of Lahaina. Lahaina was the portion of Maui that was devastated by those awful fires. And then, of course, they had to deal with all of the drama of trying to rebuild and keep all the bloodsuckers from taking everything that they have or everything that remained on the island. And oh boy, does she have a story to tell. Let's hope what happened in Maui doesn't happen here in California as we try to rebuild from our fires. Of course, we're not out of the woods yet. Some of our fires are still burning, and it's supposed to be very windy all week long. So keep your fingers crossed that we get out of the woods unharmed, because so far these fires have just been quite a pill. Also, at 1 o'clock, we're going to check in with Sean Steele, the RNC committeeman for the state of California. He was at the inauguration yesterday. I know many of you watched it on television. Some of you traveled to Washington, D.C. to see it in person. I personally watched it on TV right here in California. And I've got to tell you, Randy, as I was sitting there watching it, you're paying attention to what's being said at the speeches. You're paying attention to how people are reacting to the speeches, the weather, those sorts of things. But the thing that I couldn't get out of my head the entire time I was watching it, because Biden was sitting right there next to Trump as Trump was just savaging the last 4 years in the Biden-Harris administration. But the one thing I couldn't get out of my mind as I was sitting there watching it was this. How long do you give it, now that he's out of office, before he confuses Jill for Nancy Pelosi and hits her? Because according to the stories, he's in a real dark place right now, that he's really upset that Nancy Pelosi got him out of the race because he thinks that he would have beaten Donald Trump had he remained the Democratic nominee, and replacing him with Kamala is what cost the party.
If Biden would have stayed in that race, the Republicans would have a supermajority in both houses right now.
It's possible, but Grampy Joe doesn't think that.
Grampy Joe's the only one that doesn't think that.
Now, here's a question. If he does confuse Jill for Nancy Pelosi and hits her, what do you think it's going to be? Think it's going to be a slap? Think it's going to be a knuckle sandwich, as they say in Scranton? Wilmington, Delaware? You think it's going to be a Superfly Jimmy Snuka chop? Or how about this one? Push her down a flight of stairs. That's a possibility. Didn't he mistake her for his sister once?
I believe that did happen.
Yeah. I'll tell you, if I'm Dr. Jill, I wear a name badge 24/7.
And then we went to sleep.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jill. My name is definitely not Nancy. In fact, I just changed my name to not Nancy.
That's too close to Nancy, though.
Yeah, that could create some confusion.
We love everybody.
I'm telling you, that day is coming. All right. The Insurance Commissioner of the state of California, Ricardo Lara, who has been in hiding, he will not come on this program. I've talked to people in the news business in town at other shops. He largely rebuffs their requests. And now he's starting to show up here and there. He'll have a press conference, but not take any questions. He'll go on a broadcast program, but only on friendly media, and will not go outside the confines of that. But Randy, I think he's starting to feel the heat because he's starting to make himself more available to more shops.
As we continue to get now a nationwide international look at the California insurance disaster that we've been talking about for the last 2 years, a lot of people have a lot of questions for Ricardo Lara, and he can't be in hiding any longer. So he went on Fox 40 with Nikki Laurenzo for Inside California Politics and was asked quite a few things about the outcoming devastation from these wildfires, including what happens to all the people who got dropped by State Farm in the Palisades in the year leading up to the fire.
Okay, so you talked about a little bit there, expanding the moratorium on cancellations and non-renewals, and there was an announcement this week from...
For 1 year, your pile of ash that used to be your home won't get dropped. It'll take you 5 years to rebuild your home in the best case scenario, so you definitely won't have insurance by the time the house is done.
So we got that to look forward to.
this week from State Farm that it was doing a bit of an about face. There was thousands of policies dropped, non-renewed, especially in the Pacific Palisades area. So what does that mean for people who had been dropped by this specific company? Does that mean that their policy is good again? How do they sort of navigate that?
Again, we've expanded the moratorium, and we're going to continue to expand and use my moratorium power as long as...
It means nothing. His moratorium means nothing.
No, it doesn't.
As long as these fires continue to expand to protect the most people as possible during this devastation.
So you make a moratorium that State Farm can't drop these people for 365 days. What do you think happens, John, on day 366?
You're on the FAIR plan.
Secondly, what I did is I asked insurance companies to step up to the plate. We're all...
Oh, great. He's a cliché-er, too.
I'm very kind of sketchy.
Yeah, you are.
To step up to the plate. All eyes are on the insurance companies right now, including ours at the department.
Yes, so many eyes that State Farm realized it would be a terrible idea to run a Super Bowl ad with Arnold Schwarzenegger saving people from a burning house.
Well, up until now, you better get some glasses for those eyes.
And we want them to make sure that they understand that, people are hurting right now. And if they have pending non-renewals or cancellations, that they revoke those.
Yeah, but the question was about all the people that got canceled in the year leading up to the fire.
I've noticed this happening more often lately. With Kamala Harris, it really kind of put it on the front page where she just wouldn't answer any question that was asked of her. And then Karen Bass became an obvious offender, and now he's doing it. I know politicians never like to answer questions that make them look bad, but it seems like no one's answering the questions they're asked anymore.
And it's becoming more evident every day. And the regular people who watch these interviews trying to hear some real information about something that affects every single person living in this state, when they hear these non-answers, hopefully they realize that person shouldn't be in elected office anymore. Because if you cannot answer a real question and talk like a human being, then how can we trust you on anything?
And it's not like these are even gotcha questions. I understand if the interviewer is playing games where you're not going to play in that sandbox, but these are pretty straightforward, basic questions.
And Nikki Laurenzo is a very straightforward reporter. She's not biased on one side or another, and this was not a difficult question to answer.
Not only for those in the fight.
But if he says anything about, it's all part of our negotiating to make sure we gave them everything that they wanted, and then they dropped a bunch of policies to make me look bad so I'd give them even more of what they want, he's not going to do that.
Nope.
Not only for those in the fire area, but throughout LA County. I'm pleased to see that State Farm answered my call. They are, putting a moratorium, and this is also important because it covers commercial properties, and it goes beyond just the fire areas. We're talking about the entire...
So now that the whole city is burned down, now they won't cancel any more policies.
When he said that State Farm would take his call, I thought he would pause and say, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
County of LA, stopping those non-renewals, and if you've been non-renewed, or if you have a pending non-renewal or a pending cancellation, that they're going to revoke those for 1 year.
And then what happens? There's more than 1 year left on this planet, right?
I'll give you a hint. It has something in common with every booked American Airlines flight you have.
That gives us time to recuperate. As you know, LA County is a financial juggernaut for our state and our country. Give us the time to recover so that we do what we do best in LA County, which is to contribute to the greatness of our state and our country.
So a year and a week from now, when everyone is still recovering and rebuilding from this devastating fire, and hopefully there's no more of them, then we'll all get dropped.
Well, at least he's thought it through.
Mr. Ricardo Lara was also asked about the FAIR plan and the weird little sketch things that he did to it to make sure that the insurance companies can pass on all the costs that they have to deal with in dealing with the FAIR plan going out to you, the ratepayer, including the ones not affected by the fire.
I'm very kind of sketch.
Okay, so I want to get you on the record about a rule change that went into place last year regarding the FAIR plan that you implemented, and it was part of a negotiation process with the big insurers to keep them here issuing policies in the state. This was one of their wish list items. So if the FAIR plan...
Doesn't it already sound good that they had a wish list and Ricardo Lara said, sure, and they still dropped everybody?
That's what little kids write to Santa.
If the FAIR plan goes bankrupt in the state, these companies would be...
Let's not forget, this is a guy that promised when running for Insurance Commissioner he wasn't going to take any money from the insurance industry. And turns out he took money from the insurance industry.
And didn't he try to do it by having their spouses write the check so it looked like someone in the family who didn't directly work in the insurance industry was the contributor?
Hey, FBI, the new one, can you look at this jackass?
If the FAIR plan goes bankrupt in the state, these companies would be asked to step up and cover the costs, and then they would pass the...
That used to be the reason the FAIR plan was implemented back in the 60s was if the insurers who want to do business in the largest market in the country, the fourth largest market in the world, but they decide they only want to cover certain areas and people with their last resort is for the FAIR plan. Well, if too many people go on that plan and it goes under, the insurance companies have to bail it out because they're the ones that didn't want to write the policies. Ricardo Lara said, nah, never mind. You don't have to be on the hook for any of this.
And when the FAIR plan was initiated, it wasn't supposed to have tons of people on it. It was supposed to be just for the people whose home was next to the fireworks factory or something.
Pass those costs on to their customers who might not even be affected by these fires across the state. So there's some criticism that, you know, these costs for these fires, if these companies have to, you know, pass these costs along, that Californians are going to be on the hook for this. And we're already in an insurance crisis and people can't afford it to begin with. So what do you say to that?
You're absolutely right. We are still in the midst of this insurance crisis. And of course, the fires and...
And what have you done to solve it in 2 years? Actually, wait, you've been Insurance Commissioner for 6 years.
Yeah, he's a lame duck.
You're absolutely right. We are still in the midst of this insurance crisis. And of course, the fires in LA County further complicate our already complicated insurance market.
Because now everyone's paying attention to it?
The fact that he isn't a household name yet tells you what kind of absentee landlord we have running that department.
The FAIR plan, which is a conglomerate of insurance companies and ran by insurance companies, one of the biggest things that we worked on was this, as you said, this reform. Because in the past...
Wait, the biggest thing that Ricardo Lara worked on was making sure that instead of the insurance companies being responsible if the FAIR plan bleeds out, that we have to be responsible? Great job!
That's quite a portfolio.
Because in the past, the insurance companies were completely on the hook for the FAIR plan. What did this do? That kept them from growing and coming back into California. What we've done is create a long-term financial stability for the FAIR plan in the most egregious and catastrophic, multi-fire event, so that it
Wait, I read over the weekend that they're going to have to require a bailout. So if you made all of these changes to make sure the FAIR plan was financially sound and the consumer would take it in the teeth, and then the FAIR plan ends up needing a bailout to avoid bankruptcy, your plan failed because now the consumers are going to take it in the teeth and we're going to have to bail them out too.
So that it gives some certainty to the market and it keeps investors and reinsurers recommitting and growing in California. So what we've done is...
The concept of reinsurance is so ridiculous to me because even the insurance companies have insurance. Who actually has the money at the end of all this?
I wonder if they have insurance.
Reinsurance.
So what we've done is, look, the FAIR plan has to first, expense with all their money. Then they can go.
Got bored there already.
I don't even think it's close with all the damage that was done with these fires.
Both the Eaton Fire Zone and the Palisades Zone were places that had massive amounts of cancellations in the last 2 years. So you have a majority of the people in Southern California that joined the FAIR plan in those two areas?
The FAIR Plan has to first, expense with all their money. Then they can go into the reinsurance. They're allowed to purchase reinsurance. They also now are, have a credit line, and then hopefully
I don't know who's lending to the FAIR Plan.
You'd have to be real reckless.
I'm very kind of sketchy.
If you want to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Maria writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Remember, guys, car insurance is going way up, too. Let's not forget a new law is increasing car insurance prices to cover non- and underinsured drivers. I got the email, called Mercury, and the guy was like, California? Yep, new law. So all of us who are responsible are going to be punished. I'm going to call them, but then the fires happen, but I may still. You know what's going on with that is the new law that she's talking about raised the minimum coverage that you need for all the cars that are in California. So yeah, those rates are going up. The home insurance rates are going up. The rental insurance rates are going up. This state was already unaffordable, and it's about to get a whole lot more unaffordable.
Here's what's funny. I know a lot of people who have been hit by other cars here in the state of California. I know of no one who was hit by someone with insurance. Have you noticed that in your own personal life?
I haven't, but I'm not surprised.
And Randy, if you want to go back into the archive and listen to a past show about Sheng Tao or the fake doctor or any of your other favorites, that's easy to do.
I mean, you got to have a weird fetish if you want to go back and listen to old Barbara Ferrer shows, but you do you, buddy. Yeah. Go to KABC.com, click on podcast.
Next slide.
Go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes.
No, thank you.
You can do a Google on the YouTube or get that handy-dandy KABC app. Search KABC AM in the Apple App Store or the Android Store. It's the easiest way to listen live to this radio station and download all the podcasts.
I have tech issues.
Yeah, you do.
And Randy, we're on the move in the San Francisco Bay.
KSFO is where we do the Fixed California Hour weeknights at 11. KSFO is moving from AM 560 to AM 810. They did the move. It's happened. And now that signal is so big and strong, you can even hear it at night in Southern California. So set a preset for AM 810 weeknights at 11. I mean, that's not rated or anything because it's in a completely different market, but I think it's kind of cool.
Right now, we're going through the sound of California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara.
Here's Ricardo Lara squirming around trying to answer why he changed the rules in just the last 6 months so the insurance companies can pass the majority of the cost of the FAIR Plan going out of business to you.
They also now are, have a credit line, and then hopefully we're going to be introducing a bill to make sure that they have access to catastrophic bonds, and we want to include that there. And then
so that's again taxpayer money going to bail out the FAIR Plan instead of the insurance companies who were supposed to bail out the FAIR Plan because we had to create it because the insurance companies wouldn't insure.
At what point do we just scrap that entire proposition and start over?
And we want to include that there. And then they assess an assessment on the insurance plans. After all that's exceeded, then they have to come to the Insurance Commissioner to figure out a cost-sharing plan with taxpayers and the insurance companies. And again, this is in the most egregious, catastrophic, multi-fire, multi-regional,
It's not?
No, it's something we just lived through last week.
But aren't we in that right now in LA? We're in a dire situation right now.
We're in the most destructive, expensive wildfire in the country's history. And Ricardo Lara is, well, no. It could get much worse.
Well, this could be bad if we have fires.
But
don't you get the papers?
But aren't we in that right now in LA? We're in a dire situation right now, and people might be concerned that their rates are going to go up if they live in the Bay Area or if they live in, the foothills here in Northern California. Can you commit that won't happen?
Of course not.
No, it's going to explode.
They already have been exploding.
No, because, look, just as we have done this when Southern California folks tell me the exact same thing when there's fires raging in Northern California, we're in this together. There has been mega fires all over the state, as you know. since I've taken office, close to 110 fires across the state that have required us to intervene and help consumers. And so this is a statewide issue, and we're going to have to...
You notice that how much the rate and the destruction of these fires went up when Gavin and this guy got into office?
Yeah, it didn't used to be this bad.
And so this is a statewide issue, and we're going to have to come together as California.
He is right now signaling that every single person in the state of California's rates are going to explode in the wake of this.
Okay, now I know why he doesn't do these interviews.
Little sketch.
These interviews are so crash and burn, he might start his own fire.
I'm very kind of sketchy.
And so this is a statewide issue, and we're going to have to come together as Californians to solve this. And this is why...
You know what that's going to lead to? A lot less Californians because they're going to get the F out.
Yeah, let's all get together and solve this. That means you pay a lot more in your premiums.
Come together as Californians to solve this. And this is why it's imperative that we work on the mitigation piece, bring down the mitigation risk so that insurers can...
Yeah, but none of your changes had anything to do with that.
No.
The insurance companies don't have to lower your rates at all, even if you have the best roof possible, those new fancy roofs that deploy a bunch of foam to protect your home in the wake of a fire. Doesn't matter. They can still cancel you.
Do those cost a fortune?
Yes. But anything's cheaper than this damn fire.
So that insurers can come...
Undergrounding all the power lines? Oh, it's so expensive. Cheaper than this damn fire.
Does the foam look like a normal roof, or does it look remedial?
I think it looks pretty good. There are a couple of homes in the Palisades that did not burn thanks to that technology.
So that insurers can come back.
There's a stucco that is actually flame resistant. That's not expensive that we could be putting in every single home. But guess what? Even if we did that, the insurance companies will still drop you.
If it looks normal, I might go ahead and do it to my house. But if it doesn't look normal, it's going to be like the solar panels. I'm going to pass because I don't want the roof of my house to look like Mikhail Gorbachev's bald head.
Even if it did look good, do you really want to start that process over again?
No, I don't.
So that insurers can come back into California and drive the cost down. We are never going to get...
When are we going to see that? You just gave the insurance companies everything they want, and they're still announcing that they're pulling out. We had Liberty Mutual announce today that they're canceling, starting in 2026, all of their condo and rental insurance.
Here's what you have to understand as you sit here listening to him. He is termed out in 2026, and he is going to attempt to seek another office. As long as everything doesn't totally fall apart by 2026, he's fine. If it happens in 2027, he's going to blame the next guy.
We are never going to get to affordability of rates if we don't entice insurance companies to come back and grow. And that is...
So to get this straight, we're never going to get to affordability of rates until we allow the insurance companies to raise your rates astronomically.
I kind of get the impression that he is totally clueless.
And that is what our...
What were his qualifications to be insurance commissioner?
He was a state senator from Bell Gardens. And then before that, he was the assemblyman from Bell Gardens. And before that, I think he used to work for Kevin De Leon and Marco Firebaugh.
But what are his qualifications to be insurance commissioner?
He has none. I think he's got a bachelor's degree from San Diego State.
I'm very kind of sketchy.
And that is what our reforms are doing. We also need the legislature to put money in consumers' hands so that they can work on the mitigation. We can have all...
Yeah, but the insurance rates are still going to go up.
By a lot.
We can have all the building code upgrades in the world. We can have the latest fire standards issued. But if people cannot afford to make these changes, we're never going to get there. And this is why we need to act quickly, put money in people's pockets, work on the mitigation.
So his answer is to give you a big old fancy rebate to put a fancy new roof on your burned down house.
Makes sense to me.
Work on the mitigation and get insurers to write again, drive up that competition and bring down the cost.
What incentive do the insurance companies have to bring down the cost? They just got the okay to raise the rates as much as possible and to pass any liability with the FAIR Plan onto you. The rates are not ever coming down.
No, here's where we're going, because this fits in with his political worldview. He is going to allow the insurance companies at some point to base the pricing off of future forecasting that is going to be done by Greta Thunberg, who believes the world will come to an end 7 years from now. And that modeling will be what they use to jack up your rates exponentially. And then they're going to sell it to us as some kind of green-friendly initiative. Do not be dumb enough to fall for that. That would be very bad news. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Chuck writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com on Mr. Sketch himself, Ricardo Lara.
I'm very kind of sketch.
Hey, guys, I'm wondering what credentials Ricardo Lara has to hold this office as Insurance Commissioner. The man speaks as if he has a sixth-grade education. I'm not sure he has the qualifications to sell hot dogs. I think insurance companies recognized an inept individual who they could take complete advantage of. As a ratepayer, I don't want to have to pay for other people's insurance. They chose where they live so they could pay the share of their risk without my help. I'm so sick of this concept.
Well, we've got a critic. This is what term limits produces, by the way. Instead of becoming an expert on a particular subject and just staying there a while, what they do is they have to hop from office to office, and they end up going wherever they think that they can successfully jump to. In this particular case, he thought that the insurance commissioner's office was the most winnable statewide. So that's what he ran for. He has no background in the insurance industry. He has no particular skill set or knowledge base. He did it because he thought it was attainable, and it was. But then we end up with an insurance commissioner that knows nothing about insurance. Right now, we are listening to the sound of California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara.
Ricardo Lara has asked a very simple question at the end of this interview. Can LA residents count on you to have their back?
Okay, my final question to you. Look, people are distraught right now, rightfully so. They have had their lives turned upside down, and that is a massive understatement. You've seen it firsthand as you've been touring the devastation down there, and there just really isn't a lot of trust in government when it comes to the city, county, and state level. Can Californians, can Angelenos count on you during this time of crisis?
No.
I could have answered that question before the fire.
Look, none of this uncertainty and speculation and finger pointing helps during this moment.
You gotta be kidding me.
As I said, I've seen this firsthand multiple times. So again, focusing as my duty as your insurance commissioner, my job right now is to make sure that insurance companies honor the contract that you sign with them and that they start paying claims as quickly as possible so you get the financial resources you need to move on with your life.
And then when you get a new house, you won't be able to get insurance for it.
So you have that to look forward to.
And so that is my commitment right now. We want you to call our office at 1-800.
No, we don't need the damn number.
We're also doing these unique insurance town workshops. This is not a resource fair. This is me connecting you with our insurance expert to help you assess your situation and at the same time connect you with your insurance representative to get the claims process started. And so we're going to commit.
Or you can just call, your insurance company if you still have one.
I just call Rez.
And so we're going to commit to do that. We're going to commit to be there from the beginning until we get you back into your home.
All right, Commissioner.
There we go. Anybody have faith in this jackass?
No.
I'm very kind of sketch.
That I agree with you on.